As compared to that first meeting, which you can describe as an over-the-top slugfest, marred by insults and interruptions that left many wishing the organizers could simply just cut the microphones.
So tonight, while one candidate is answering a direct question for 2 minutes, the other candidate's microphone will be muted. The moderator, NBC's Kristen Welker, has chosen 6 topics: fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. Leading up to this debate, Biden prepared while he stayed in Delaware. The president held his debate prep in the spaces between multiple campaign rallies this week.
There's so much at stake. We want to bring in Nicole Killian. She is inside the debate hall in Nashville. Good evening, Nicole.
I gotta flip it over backwards.
Nora, the Biden campaign says the former vice president will use tonight as another opportunity to speak directly to the American people and lay out his agenda. They view this debate as a test of presidential temperament and say Biden is prepared for whatever comes his way.
You guys get your phone, your phone text.
The president will go after Biden and his son Hunter, but they think that's going to backfire. Biden told reporters today he hopes the president plays by the rules. Nora?
All right, let's bring in CBS's Paula Reed because she covers the White House and President Trump. Paula?
Good evening, Nora. President Trump heads into tonight's debate with little formal preparation. He said this week, though, he insists that he gets plenty of practice by fielding questions from reporters nearly every day. A senior campaign official says the president will try to focus at least some of tonight's discussion on Biden's son Hunter, but many of his other advisors are encouraging the president to let his opponent speak more than he did last time in the hope that Biden will make some mistakes. Nora.
All right, Paula Reed, we are just moments away, and John Dickerson, can anything that happens tonight change the trajectory of this race?
Well, it's the last moment of the race that is guaranteed to have a huge viewership. If it can, tonight's the night.
All right, let's listen now to the moderator.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready, let's start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital, I had it, and I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure, but I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime. Nobody's been able to say that, but I'm immune. More and more people are getting better. We have a problem that's a worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem, but I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do. If you take a look at what we've done in terms of goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators, we're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month, distributing them all over the world. It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Okay, former Vice President Biden, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis?
If they mute a mic, we smoke.
220,000 Americans dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day, and there are over 70,000 new cases per day. Compared to what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the President's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the President thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is make sure we have everyone encouraged to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we move in the direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe, and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now where the New England Medical Journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
President Trump, I'd like to follow up with you in your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron.
He's doing good so far.
Will be coming within weeks.
Trump's doing good. It's all he has to do for the whole debate.
It's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Can you tell us which companies?
Johnson & Johnson is doing very well, Moderna is doing very well, Pfizer is doing very well, and we have numerous others. And then we also have others that we're working on very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you because this is new information. You have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we expect to have 100 million vials. As soon as we have the vaccine, he's ready to go.
Vice President Biden,
I'm ready to smoke 17. Cheers, everybody. So far, nobody has had to have their mic muted. I'll smoke to that. Cheers. I'm impressed.
Approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it. Go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no
I don't think we're going
plan.
to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China from coming in heavily infected, and then ultimately Europe, but China was in January. Months later, he was saying I was xenophobic. I did it too soon. Now he's saying, oh, I should have, moved quicker. But he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me. Many months behind me. And frankly, he ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was a total disaster, far less lethal, but it was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it was a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic, it was horrible, we didn't know what we were doing. Now he comes up and he tells us how to do this. Also, everything that he said about the way, every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way behind us.
Vice President Biden, your response.
My response is he is xenophobic, but not because he shut down access from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, he's being transparent. The president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to thank him. And then what happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing, he did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about, don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families, every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous. And you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9% of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to
99% of people recover.
We can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has
said that
people can get sick with COVID-19 and can't get sick. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy.
You're such an idiot.
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks home will have an empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on.
And he understands that kind of loss.
Because he has never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that it came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
The fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that. A lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What, Nancy Pelosi said the same thing.
He wasn't
she was dancing
kidding.
in the streets in Chinatown in San
Fucking
Francisco.
straight out lie. He was being serious about injecting bleach.
This is a terrible thing. You're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even. And because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did. You certainly did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handle
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
that's obvious.
do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful of the cost of shutdowns,
Joe Biden just laid down.
The economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at his golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans about what to do about the acts they were passing for billions of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Oh, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standards. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods.
Internet.
And he refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools.
You guys,
the transmittal rate to the teachers
what delay is LaRourke talking about?
But I want to open the schools.
Is there some sort of delay?
What? We're not going to have a country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die, so don't worry about it. So don't worry about it.
Wow, great.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
That was powerful.
If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic. These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just can't. Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years. I loved it. It was vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York.
Take a look at what New York has done in terms of turning the curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States.
Really good.
And look at the states that are having such a spike
You're
in
welcome, Nick.
the coronavirus.
I love you guys.
They're the red states.
Thanks for staying and watching it with me.
They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
When
about...
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now, it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially. We can't let that happen, Joe. You can't let that happen. We have to open up, and we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems, and we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony, but he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think he's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said, this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look, nobody knew what this thing was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his exact words. This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
My response is that think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we find out in the New York Times the other day that in fact his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing, and a memo out of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers said, sell short because we got to get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it. You have raised a lot of money, tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, you know. I could raise so much more money. As president and as somebody that knows most of those people, I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America. I would blow away every record, but I don't want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me. I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking him a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, his buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here, Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States, because they know I know them and they know me. I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of the NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question, why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia.
Here we go.
And it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million. Your
family.
You know, someday you're going to have to explain why did he get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia.
I knew he was going to mention it.
Your thing last night.
Good job, Trump.
About that.
Good job.
Through John Ratcliffe, who was fantastic.
Dude,
he said,
he's dropping bombs,
one
bro.
thing that's common to both of them. They both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia. Between the sanctions, nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the NATO countries to put up an extra $130 billion, going to $420 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. Wow. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning. And regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Vice President Biden, you may respond in 30 seconds. And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. We learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I've not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, This is a president. I have released all of my tax returns. 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump, your response.
First of all, I called my accountants, underwrote it. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it. And it'll show how successful, how great this company is. But much more importantly than that, people were saying $750. I asked them a week ago, I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I prepaid my tax. Tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid. Because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody told you that. Excuse me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you, they even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions about all of this, but I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a deadline for when you're going to release them?
I get treated worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because I have a lot of people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it. But I have paid millions and millions of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. Okay. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said, I only pay that little because I'm smart. I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So, President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Sure.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things that you've done and the kind of monies that your family has taken, I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company when you were vice president. In retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing, number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do and did not do because it never, ever, ever happened. My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had it. The only guy who made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
Okay, just one thing.
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the Vice President respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you.
No basis for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflict of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is, everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in 2013.
Cheers, everybody.
That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money.
President Trump, thank you. We do need to move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific, what would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that in order to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property. You have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys
Billy,
like
I was pointing at the tie before.
Like in North
Isn't that
Korea
hilarious? The big red tie and big blue tie.
The Chinese president and Putin and others.
Stupid.
And he puts his finger around all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, and let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North Korea.
With $1.5 billion from China after spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force 2, number one. Number two, there's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy though, what specifically are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going to make them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave $28 billion.
New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers.
Taxpayers' money.
Taxpayers'
money.
You know, the taxpayers, it's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28 billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
My response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires to the ball because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? You're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want to talk about
I like when he looks at the camera and addresses the people.
10 seconds, Mr. President, 10 seconds.
Political
Trump does that.
Let's get off this China thing, and then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about
I'm not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected. Let's get off the subject of China. Let's talk around, sitting around the table.
All right.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test, and yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not, because he's not going to do that. And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away. Millions and millions, 32 million people, and so millions of people would be dead right now.
President Trump, that's 30 seconds. Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat?
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal, because here's the reason. I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off, and they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
On the condition that he would agree that he would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American families.
They tried to meet with him.
10 seconds, President.
They tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I gotta give a chance to respond to that before we move on.
And that's okay. You know what, North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. You know, people don't understand. Having a good relationship with leaders of other countries is a good thing.
We have a lot of questions to get to. Your response.
And we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you. We're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
let's move on.
Let's move on and talk about American families.
President
Trump, okay,
they left me a mess. North Korea was a mess. And in fact, if you remember the first 2 or 3 months, there was a very dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and healthcare is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route.
Give him 10 seconds. He talked for like 30.
They ran it.
And they let him talk.
Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be better run. But it no longer is Obamacare, because without the individual mandate, it's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would like to do is a much better health care, much better, will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time, and I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting people with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care. Far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care. People that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people, families. Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care. And we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President,
they muted him.
This is for you. Your health
we got smoked. They just muted Donald Trump.
So my question is, what
holy
is your plan
shit!
If the law is ruled unconstitutional,
they fucking muted the president of the United States in a debate.
What I'm going to do is pass
one bunch of fucking bastards.
Become Biden care. The public option is an option that says
all he tried to say was just
do
watch.
Not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal, then your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen.
Secondly, smoke for every mute. They muted him. No longer going to get us drug prices. Style. Cheers, everybody. It is 420 in Newfoundland as well.
By allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance. The reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't, not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None. Zero. You can't do it in ether. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan.
Where's taxes?
We've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20. The fact, I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of this terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions, and all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
I say it's ridiculous. It's like saying that, you know, we're the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think healthcare is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable healthcare. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who in fact are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
Excuse me, he was there for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you want it with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he goes to Pennsylvania after he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never ask that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way,
but somebody should ask the question.
You can ask
he goes for a year. There will be
we have a number of topics.
No, but that's a big question.
We're going to get to
the same thing with socialized medicine.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And you're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
When he says public option, he's talking about socialized medicine and and health care. When he talks about a public option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it in his state. He tried it in his state. His governor was a very liberal governor. They wanted to make it work.
Okay, let's hear Vice President Biden respond.
It doesn't work.
He's a very confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that we're in a situation that they're going to destroy Medicare, this is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023. With no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare. So I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
He tried to get rid of, he tried to hurt Social Security years ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All right, let's move on.
This is the guy that when they announced,
Mr. President, I move on to the next question.
They said the stock market will boom if I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about
401ks,
We're
President,
going to move on.
401ks are through the roof.
We're going to move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come from Scranton. That's like one of the, he lived there for a short period of time before he even knew.
We're going to move on to the next question.
And the people of Pennsylvania.
Let me move on to my next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House, because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President.
We made a deal.
Biden, because let me ask Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets, and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these kids. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States.
Well said.
And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out, too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration,
one thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
We have to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent, but what I really like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. It should be a state option. Look, I've lived in different places. I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
President Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen, and we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero-tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally, and they come in through
But how will you reunite these kids with their families, Mr. President?
They built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages, and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages, and they said, look at these cages, President Trump built them, and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you have a plan to reunite the kids?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard, but a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come to begin with. Real tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up question.
They did it. We changed the policy.
Your response to that?
We did not. They built the cages. Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
who built the cages,
Let's talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they cannot find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask you about
I will say this. They went down, we brought reporters, everything. They are so well taken care of. They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of them haven't been reunited.
But just ask one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they're going to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders. out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
Kristen, he had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President Biden, your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released, and guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response, 30 seconds, and then we'll move on.
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You did Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe. Yeah. They never come back. Only the really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President Trump, let's give Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
You don't know the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Know the law, what he's telling you is simply not true.
Well, check it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on.
But we don't have to worry about it because they terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it.
Let's move on to the next section.
And you have 525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you.
You wrote the crime bill.
Parent,
what
no
a
matter
hypocrite.
how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child when you're walking down the street,
this fucking
don't have a
piece
hoodie
of
on when you
shit.
go across the street.
I wonder if Trump's
sure
gonna
that
say
in
it.
fact, if
You wrote
get
the
pulled over,
crime bill,
this,
bro.
Yes, sir, no, sir. Hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is, there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it. Do we hold these truths to be self-evident?
Crack cocaine is worse than crack powder, right? Right, Joe?
Never ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, He's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform, Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And I did. 10-year long-term funding, and I gave them more money than they asked for because they said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice Chair.
My response to that is I never ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000 though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail.
Whoa!
We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
Why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I'm anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at this closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
Right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump,
Nobody.
we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very quick.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia.
Gentlemen, I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go again
President,
with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that rhetoric?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. I got criminal justice reform done and prison reform and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything. It makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys, last time we were on stage here, he said, I told them to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond.
He made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
you said Abraham Lincoln.
Where did that? No. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying,
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put tens of thousands of black men, mostly, in jail.
All right,
You know what? They remember it because if you look at what's happening with the voting right now,
Donald Trump's doing great.
They've treated them very, very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to.
You guys want my take on this? They're both beating the shit out of each other. It's even. 50-50. Nobody wins. Nobody loses. It's a total draw. That's my take. Before the goddamn thing's over.
One of the things
I'm tweeting it right now.
Passed 100%. All 100 senators voted for it. A bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the sense, and particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to the drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it done. We released 38,000. We got 38,000 prisoners left from.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I just asked one question. Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress. That's the answer.
Well, you got to talk them into it, Joe. Sometimes you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen, we're running out of time, so we got to get on to climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Just said that.
Vice President Biden.
We haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change and climate warming, global warming, is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit of emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 500,000 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs. And it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street. And I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
Well, President Trump here
came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, you know, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know, developed AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look, a real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers. $100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Because they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45, 50 bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump, please respond, and then I have some follow-up.
We are energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive. Kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. Kills all the birds. Problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
solar.
that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So it's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right, let me allow Vice President Biden to respond.
I never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is, he's flat lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer, we need other industries to transition to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it, but it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod.
Excuse me, he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said. No fracking and oil on federal land.
Let me ask this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick. Your administration has rolled back regulations on these kinds of facilities.
Yes.
Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
People like
the families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they are making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic,
what a douchebag. That's a lie.
It's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was under, in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the 2 of them, to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic. We saved it. We got, say what you want about relationship, we got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again. Everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claremont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield over, there'd be oil stuck in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer. The fact is, those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions, the pollutants coming out of those fence line.
John, that's great, communities.
Man. Okay, I have one final question.
Would you close down the oil industry? Or would you close down the oil industry?
I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh, that's a big statement.
That is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly. I said, here's the deal.
That's a big statement.
Good job!
Let me finish the statement.
Good job!
Because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time.
Wow!
Over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies.
Yes!
You won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do to solar and wind. And that's maybe the biggest statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because basically what he's saying is he's going to destroy the oil industry. Would you remember that, Texas? Would you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right. One
is he going to get China to do it?
No, we're finished with this.
Is he going to get China to do it?
Our final question.
No,
we have to move on to our final question.
I'm going to rejoin Paris Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All right. This is about leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Mr.
We have to make a country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, etc. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country. Decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Wow, man.
And an extraordinary final debate between the two candidates, much more substantive.
Wow, man. I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed with that debate. That was worth watching, and I'm glad that we all watched it. I'm glad that you guys sat through it with me, man. You know, that's history being made right there. And they really were able to say things that they needed to say about each other. They were able to speak about themselves, and they were able to speak about each other without being interrupted. And when they did interact with each other, it was for the most part cordial. Considering the topic, the subject matter, it was cordial. You know, they're talking about horrendous shit. And I only saw one mute personally. I had to run and go get Rogie. He ran away at one point. But wow, you know, if you guys were going to rank this debate out of a 1 through 10, 10 being the highest, give me your numbers, you guys. What do you give this? Out of 1 out of 10, as far as debates that you've seen, what would you give this debate? As far as, you know, a debate where you're able to hear both sides of an argument, they're able to respond to each other, and they're able to try to convince you in a way, in a clear manner, where you're not distracted by, you know, noise or unnecessary rudeness or things like that. As far as debates go, Billy gave it a 7. Josh gives it an 8. Right on, guys. Great rankings. Trickster gives it a 7. Hippie Chick gave it a 9. Steve Running gave it an 8. Ashley gave it an 8. Those are very high rankings, guys. I would give it a high ranking as well. I was able to understand, and they both did very well as far as reminding. They brought the big guns, you know. Both of them did. They swung for the fences, and they, you know, I appreciated it. The first debate you gave a 4. You know, hey, Paw, what's up, son? He gives it an 8. Randy Church gave it a 6. I think a 6 is the lowest rank that anybody would give that debate on here so far. And I feel honored to be the person to bring it to you. It makes me feel good that you guys appreciated it and you appreciated the debate. I thought it was interesting. They both had the same width tie with the same bright opposite color, red and blue. they did good without having to mute the mics on them, but the one time, which was not necessary, when they muted Donald Trump, they shouldn't have done it. He only had to say, it looked like, I don't know if he stopped talking because they muted him or not. There were other times when I believe, and Billy, I think, agreed, that Donald Trump should have been muted. She gave him 10 seconds to speak, and he spoke for 30 or 40 seconds. She said, you've got 10 seconds. And she just let him ramble. And I'm like, she should have told him to stop, and if not, they should have muted his mic. They didn't. That's okay. That's just what I think. That's just my opinion and Billy's opinion. I agreed with him when he said that. It was a very interesting debate. They covered, I said Donald Trump's going to mention Hunter, and man, they went right into it, didn't they? Right? You tricksters, like, yeah, you could understand it. They weren't allowed to bully each other, correct? Steve Running. Right? I got it nice and fucking cold in here. I don't need air conditioning tonight, which is great, man. It's cold outside. Everybody was tweeting like crazy during the debate. Secular Talk, Real Tim Black, Tim Pool were all live tweeting during the debate. It was funny.
Full responsibility. It's not, excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault.
I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. He just has a horrible way of speaking. Okay, let me speak for Donald Trump, okay? I'll be your English translator for Donald Trump. Donald Trump right there tried to say that he takes full responsibility for the 220 deaths in the United States, 220,000 deaths in the United States. But it's not his fault that it came here. I understand what he's trying to say. Let it go. Let it go, bro. It's hilarious, regardless. Oh, right. I can't like stuff on Twitter because Twitter sucks my dick. What are you ranking it? I give that debate, as far as debates where I'm able to hear and they're able to talk and they both were able to, I give it a 10, man. I give that debate a 10 as far as all debates I've seen. Even civil debates, people cut each other off and talk over each other. There was none of that in this debate. There was no talking over each other. I liked it a lot. I don't like either of the people that were involved in it. But they put on a really good debate, man. I'm a debater. I like debates. From somebody who watches a lot of them, participated in a few. I know a good debate when I see one. And I give that one 10 out of 10, man. Did either of them convince me to vote for one or the other? No. I say it's a draw. A good debate doesn't always have a winner. A good debate doesn't always have a winner. And that's okay. But it was a great debate. And, Graham Elwood's tweeting. I wonder if Graham's live. Where did Graham go? Shit. We just had him. And then he got bumped. What did Graham say? This vote is about communism and socialism. Tina Haller, how is it about communism and socialism? How's that so, Tina? What are you talking about? Graham Elwood. What was he tweeting about? What did you just tweet, Graham? Going live with Ron Pacone in just a few minutes. Oh, get the fuck out of here. Hey, they won't let me retweet it. I wasn't able to like. I think I liked it, but they penalized me. But they're going live. Oh, great. There's already 137 people watching. I will bring you that podcast, okay? So you don't have to go. You can watch it right here with me. All right? Days Garden. I can't wait for him to say that.
What's up, citizens of Gotham? Oh wait, I forgot something. Hold on. I'll be right.
I'll be right back. And he disappeared. That was funny. Days Garden. I have to change. Oh wait, do I have to? Let me check. Let me just see. Maybe I know. Let me see if I can super chat. Let's see what happens here.
Well, there it is. Now we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Come on now. Let's get the super bad curl where it needs to be. It's kind of a challenge. Right there it is. Boom. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Out of the gate, Keith M. with a super chat. Great way to support the shows. Do what Keith M. is doing, everybody. Hit that little dollar icon button. Ron Platone is going to be joining us momentarily.
Oh my God, it's going through on my main channel.
I wouldn't buy a used car from. I know.
It's going through on my main channel. I can't believe it.
We're gonna get into it. We'll get into the whole thing. What's up, Gamer Backyard? Keith, Holly, Sharif, Kate, our moderator is here. Annabelle Corley, Truth to Tweet, Jim Vetto. Come on, Matty G. The whole gang is here, everybody. 170 people watch. I'm going to share this out on the social media. Go, hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. I do not. I never said I was going to ban. I wouldn't ban fracking. I said that sometimes frack. Oh God.
I'm so excited.
Let's do it, everybody. Join us here.
This makes me happy.
It was an exciting time. And also, we're live on the Rockfin. Let me share it out on the Rockfin Independent Left News. Audie Presley, Tangerina Hayes. Hello. I'm going to share that we're live on the Rockfin.
He's happy.
Folks, we are 213 people watching, 101 likes. Please hit the like button.
Oh, he's got to use. He's got to do Facebook. I should.
Get your like on. Tulsi 2002.
I'll let him know that I did so good on the Facebook thing. It'll be good. Oh wait.
Nays Garden, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Nays, thank you so much for supporting the show. Graham, we love you. Ron, we love Lucy, and you are nice for feeding her. That's cool that you feed your cat, Ron. It'd be kind of a dick move if you didn't. I mean, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but it's kind of a dick move to not feed your cat. Hello, Pat the Batman fan. What's up, Sailor Man? Hello.
Okay, tell him about Facebook.
Progressive Conversations with Lloyd. Lid. I Just Our Nature. Bunch of other names. I can't read all of them. Ha ha. Hello. Remember now. Kate is our moderator, folks, so if you say something dumb, she can pull the thing. Does Graham need a cat? Let's hear. I don't know. I mean, I like cats, but I just... Rockford of the house as well. We have quakes in Atlanta now thanks to fracking. Jesus. Oh, two old assholes debating on who's not going to ban fracking. Let's bring Ron Pocona, ladies and gentlemen. 245 people watching. We have 122 likes. Ron and I are going to get into this, and we're also going to answer your questions. It's what's fun business when Ron's on the shizzo. You're watching The Political Vigilante with my very special guest, Ron Pocone.
Hello, Graham. What a fine night for democracy. That was just spectacular. I mean, I thought they both just crushed it. I mean, it's hard to really pick a winner. I mean, I feel like we're all winners. That was the participation trophy medal of political discourse. It was amazing.
Yeah,
there, I'm sending
it. Definitely, if I had one word, I'd just say proud.
Yes. And then Trump would add boys to it.
Boom.
Yeah, and stand back and stand by. And then, all right, let's get right into that one. So even that was an opportunity Biden...
He called them the poor boys.
He called them the poor boys and said stand by and stand around. Like, he couldn't even nail that thing correctly.
It was like just two bickering old guys. Like, remember when he told the poor boys stand back and said, Grandpa, they're called Proud Boys.
Everybody agrees with me that the debate was a draw. Do you guys love me? Do you love me?
YouTubery.
Do you guys love me? Do you love me? Love me. Let's get hot.
He did some malarkey. That was, you know.
How did everybody's poll do if you had malarkey, or what was the over-under on Scranton? Was
only
it 4?
one mic muted.
I mean, how did you do? I was going to impact.
Only one
that was the only thing he didn't throw in there was Amtrak. It was he brought up Scranton and Delaware like 75 times.
Right.
Only one
that
mic
was
muted.
That was something. That was I mean
that was something.
That was really like, do you promise you're gonna frack? Do you promise you're gonna frack? Trump promises he'll frack, but I promise I will frack. You promise? Yeah, I promise. How psychotic were just those questions? Why would you do something like end the oil industry? Why would you do that?
Oh.
They advertise on our network. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
It was all they talked about was the economic impact. That was all either of them talked about.
I sent another super chat.
California's on fire.
Cheers.
Colorado has fires now.
No longer
that's right.
For all.
California has 4 million acres that have burned. The Bobcat fire, to my understanding, is still going. Like, this is, I mean, it's mostly contained, but it's like, it's you know, a month ago, we were at 2 million acres burned in California. Now we're at 4 million acres. Colorado is now, because of record droughts, is now having a bunch of horrible wildfires. Like, again, all they talked about was money, and this is the problem when you run a Republican against a fascist-leaning Republican, or full fascist, whatever you want to call Trump.
Neo-fascist versus neocon. That's what we got.
Neo-fascist, there you go. Neo-fascist versus neocon, great. Is when Trump goes, you're going to take jobs away from Texas and Oklahoma and Pennsylvania. Like, he says that, you can't, the reasonable argument, if you were an actual lefty, an actual progressive, that had an actual
371 people watching. If they're on Facebook, they have like fucking 10,000.
Has caused record earthquakes in Oklahoma. So the citizens of Oklahoma and Texas,
God,
they don't want this anymore. We want to transition them, and we'll transition them.
You guys share this in Facebook groups.
We're not going to take anybody's
Share my video in Facebook groups.
We're going to
right now. See
actually
how many people
replace it
get in
with
here.
something better. That's what you do, but you can't, when you're just like, he's talking about, Joe Biden's talking about the Paris Accord and all this other stuff from the 80s, you're like, okay. I mean,
Right on, Jacob.
overall, this debate actually kind of was one compared to the first one. It was still a train wreck, but at least they weren't yelling over each other the whole time. And
yeah, it didn't sound like an amateur podcast the whole freaking time.
No,
so
it's
that's
a debate.
It surpassed that bar.
We were able to hear.
By the way, you should get a cat. And
I got him talking about cats.
I do feed mine every day.
Okay. I don't know.
Nate gave me a shout out for feeding my cat. I'm like, yeah, that's part of the gig. You feed her.
You feed the cat.
You feed the cat. Something you do.
Dave's Garden, I did a Facebook Live today and had over 2,000 views. Graham, let's get you over to Facebook soon. Ron, too. The debate was a draw. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I gotta do restream and get it on all these different platforms at the same time. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing I've missed.
Just go to Facebook sometimes. Just go to Facebook.
But
do a Facebook broadcast.
Cat B is here. What's up? Let's read a couple more of these. Annabelle Corley, all the way from Australia, watching our fine democracy in action. We got a malarkey. I can die happy now.
We got a malarkey.
He didn't let you down.
So glad we got
We got it. Come on, man.
I mean, the
come on.
You know, the big money was on definitely a Scranton or two mentions, and we got a couple of Scrantons. But when Malarkey came in, boy, that just like
he's gonna mention me right now.
my pool went through the roof. Maze Garden, only one mic mute on Trump for 2 words. Yeah, I know. They said we're gonna mute these guys, but they didn't. They let them fire it off.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, in fairness, they didn't really have to.
Right.
I mean, they were both pretty
well said, Ron.
Fair about each other's speaking time.
In fairness,
was
they
different
really
than last time. It's sad that that's a bar that we even need to.
That's
mention.
what I said. Right. I agree.
Hey, well, it sounded like a debate.
Yeah,
right.
You know, the substance of it was just bullshit, but it was 2 men having a debate, like grown-ups, comparatively speaking.
I love what
we got to
guys
actually hear we got to hear the finer points of these 2 Republican candidates debating the Republican primary.
You guys share this. Share this all
over.
over.
Wait, this is the final debate of the general. My fault. Tom Carter, I like my poor boys on standby, my Elwood's Graham, my Ron's fully placoned.
And my knuckles
Where's my party? Oh, boy. Annabelle Corley again. Let's talk Annabelle, but Graham, we only have fires because we haven't raked leaves. Yes, I know. If Australia would just rake more leaves, they wouldn't have had the fire problem. So maybe
and have less toasters.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, we're not gonna. I mean, Ron. At this point, yeah, I think Ron's laptop was just given to a Mac repair shop, and there's all these weird toaster emails in there. So it's just kind of peculiar. It's just keeps getting weird. It just keeps getting weird.
That's a Russian plant. The laptop. A time-traveling Russian took my laptop somewhere. That's all that happened.
All right. Okay. It's just weird that you were looking at Russian toasters. Like, why would you want to buy toasters from that country in particular? I just
they make good vodka. They make good toasters. Everybody knows that.
Okay. All right.
That's a thing.
I don't know. I feel like I keep asking questions and then more questions pop up. So this gets weird to me.
It's because you don't want to accept the answers. You don't want to accept that toaster rebels can't melt steel beams. You won't accept that.
Oh, okay. Sure thing, buddy. Whatever you tell yourself. Sharif Snubs, what's up? Shaver Knuckles for Justice. Trump calling out Pelosi will land. I'm sad to say I know people in my circle who will vote that way. No, I mean, so yeah, let's get into some of the specifics.
Get into the specifics.
Where do you think? I mean, obviously the polls are saying, "Oh, Biden's in the lead," but the polls 4 years ago said Hillary was in the lead. So, where do you think, Trump landed a few, and where do you think Biden landed a few?
Well, I'll say this. I think that, and every single rebuttal Trump had, every single one. I mean, let's put this on the table once and for all. And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, on this show, but if there's anyone who's not sure, let's make it clear once and for all. Lee Camp wrote a pretty good article in Consortium News the other day of who to blame if Donald Trump wins again. And I'll tell you, I think tonight really proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the person to blame is Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, and Joe Biden. Every single rebuttal that Donald Trump had, every single one of them, he could not have made any of those rebuttals if the candidate would have been Bernie Sanders. None of them. None of them. They bring up corruption. He brings up Hunter. He brings up Wall Street. They bring up foreign policy. Biden will just sound more hawkish than him. They bring up healthcare. He'll bring up the disaster the ACA was, and that Biden doesn't really have a plan to do anything about it and was ineffective for 40 years prior to that. They bring up racism. Trump can bring up the crime bill. This is what happens when you have a guy who has so many skeletons in his closet, he didn't need to decorate his yard for Halloween last week. It's already decorated. That's what happens. So, I mean, every single rebuttal Trump has, it's because Biden's the candidate. It's because it's such a terrible opponent, and Biden can't refute anything. Trump, once again, he attacked Biden from the left and the right at various times, and Biden just didn't know what to do in that situation. He's like, he attacks him from the right, well, you can't raise the minimum wage, you can't do this, and then he attacks him from the left, like, oh, well, you didn't do this and this, and you take money from Wall Street. Like, he'll, and Biden just kind of gets stuck in that, but Trump also completely hung himself a bunch of times, and I'll tell you, overall, I think the most memorable moment of this debate will be the moment where Joe Biden said 525 kids are looking for their parents, and Donald Trump said, good.
Yeah.
That's going to be the frickin' moment. And that was, and under immigration, again, Donald Trump is absolutely terrible, but Donald Trump will be able to deflect, and he did, where he brings up, hey, you and Obama built those cages, but then when Joe Biden brought that up, and Trump said, good.
I missed that.
That's going to be a big soundbite, man. We live in an era of soundbites. That will be the big soundbite, and that's going to be what people remember. Just like last time, they remembered the Proud Boys moment. I mean, Donald Trump did hang himself twice, big time, which is Biden's only chance. If Donald Trump, shoots himself in the dick hard enough that he can't possibly recover.
Right. It's not, nobody's excited about Joe Biden. They just really want to get Trump out of there. That's what all Biden really has. I mean, I think, Trump landed a lot when he just kept saying, well, you had 8 years. Why didn't you do this? That was pretty strong. That was pretty compelling. But then there was just, at the beginning when they were talking about COVID, that's where I felt like Biden was saying, Biden can just keep saying 220,000 deaths, 220,000 deaths. And it's like, the thing that's different than 4 years ago is there's been 40 million votes cast by mail already. Like, that's a record number. And I wonder how many of those are for Trump, or are they just people who are like, we're so done with Trump, we're voting early. I don't know. I mean, it's looking different than 4 years ago. Hillary and her campaign were so cocky and so arrogant. The media was so arrogant, and a bunch of people just stayed home and didn't vote.
Graham's Superman curl is on point tonight.
I've never seen this kind of a get out the vote movement. I mean, like, I haven't seen this in a long. I don't know that I've ever seen it like this.
I think you could say 2008, and there was pretty much a landslide Obama victory in 2008. So yeah, and I think when it came to COVID, I mean, Biden did have his talking points lined up, and he landed them pretty well there, like he did, and from a debate standpoint, he absolutely did. I think that for the person really listening, it would also become apparently clear that neither one of them has any plan. Right. Like neither one of them has a plan. That's the problem, looking at it big picture. But I think from a debate standpoint, well, that still lands on the person who has the gig currently. which is Trump. So yeah, I think that's where Biden, did land a lot. I will say in foreign policy, it was an absolute disaster for Biden. God. I mean, that was disgusting just to listen to. I mean, that was unreal. I mean, he went to the right of Trump for foreign policy.
It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, after this debate, I guess the only problems America has is China and Russia and North Korea. There's no other problems in the world right now. They brought China and Russia up they wove them into everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Ukrainian virus and all this other stuff, and it's just like, again.
Well, the Iran thing now there's the Iran thing, where it's like
hippie chick, I see you in there.
And now, like, all this time spent on North Korea. And that was the one area. It just showed how bad Biden looked. But again, the Vote Any Blue Will Do people, they're not anti-war, I guess. Because, the one thing Trump...
Does the war happen in their backyard?
Yeah. If the war happened... Yeah, that's it. If it didn't happen in their backyard, then they don't care. Because... they don't matter, and like a leader going to meet with Kim Jong-un is a I mean, there's so much I can be critical of Trump of and have and will, but like when he met with Putin and everyone on the left goes, see, Putin's his buddy. I'm like, two superpowers who could wipe out life on planet Earth are having a peace talk. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It doesn't mean that they're not both pricks.
Yeah,
but that's not the point. You don't have to like world leaders. It doesn't. Right. They're not good people, pretty much any of the time. But that's irrelevant. You don't want them to go to war with each other. That's the point.
Right. The reality is too. Listening to talk about North Korea is just so preposterous because on like 4 or 5 different occasions, North Korea has either back-channeled or in sort of coded messages asked for help because they're dying financially. Right. Their system is not like. Cuba's communism actually has been able to open up and work, and theirs hasn't. And so we could talk them down very easily. They're well aware that we could wipe them off the map pretty quickly. But all we got is war. Like it's unbelievable just listening. And again, that's when Trump came at Biden from the left, and you're just like, God, it's so disappointing that there's no anti-war option on that stage. Just none. There's no chance.
It's not even that there's no anti-war option. It's that how disgustingly repulsive is it? And it goes beyond. I mean, it's our entire duopoly. It was even the moderator on the frickin' stage, and it just shows you how insanely imperialistic of a nation we are, at least in leadership. And it's like, how horrible on foreign policy do you have to be? Where you almost make the guy who recently illegally assassinated a general look like a pacifist in comparison.
Yeah.
That's the United States, man, and it is beyond disturbing and beyond appalling, and it ain't going away anytime soon.
No, that was so obvious. It's just like, and Trump, is like, oh, I've done so much for peace. And it's like, you're still bombing 7 countries. And Biden's not going to call Trump out for that because that's what he's doing. Because he helped us get to 7 wars. He's going to keep the bombing of the 7 countries. Absolutely. He's going to keep the sanctions on Iran and Venezuela. We might even invade those countries if Biden's president. I mean, it's insane to me to just these are our options. These are our 2 options is the 2 guys that love war, the 2 parties that love war on a network that loves war. It's nuts, man.
Well, I mean, even the North Korea thing, I mean, in 2015, there's that really popular Noam Chomsky clip. I think he was on Democracy Now! And he was just talking about well, here's how we could solve our problem with North Korea. And he basically said, and this is a paraphrase because these were not the words Chomsky used, but this is basically what he very eloquently put, and I'm going to put it not as eloquently. He basically said, we could just stop being assholes to them.
Right.
That's basically what he said. He's like, we're intimidating them. We're flying our planes there.
Right.
They're just like, hey, can you not? I mean, it's making us uncomfortable. That's why we're still. I mean, if you just don't want to, we're like, what? Shove what? We could just be like, okay, we're gonna bounce. That's cool. We're gonna walk away too. We could just do that. Game over.
I I mean, it's weird. You surround a small little country with a bunch of battleships that could wipe it off the earth in about 9 minutes, and they act crazy. They act scared and nuts. It's weird. It's like
weird reaction.
If I surrounded your house with like 35 guys with armed weapons and just said, "We just want to keep it safe,"
fucking fly drones.
You'd be in your home going, "Shit."
Didn't you get the tweet we sent? These bombs have democracy in them. Did you not get that memo?
We put rainbow flags on them this time. Did that make me feel
They're
better?
green. They're green.
They're green.
Before we greened them up.
Right? They're funded by biodiesel. Isn't that neat? Does that make you feel better? 722 people watching, folks. 248 likes. Hit the 257 likes. Hit the like button, folks. Get the likes going. Hello to everybody over in the Rockfin watching as well. We're simulcasting on YouTube and the Rockfin. Let's read a couple more super chizats. Fark is garbage. Shave your knuckles for justice. Pretty absurd that our two candidates debated on which one built cages for small children. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
It's just preposterous, and there's not another voice allowed on that stage for good reason. You don't want someone on there going, "You're both awful."
Yeah, you guys are both psychos.
You're both psychos. You're both awful. Like, why are we putting kids in cages? This is not a Christian thing. Like, it's insane that these are our choices. Like, it really just is like, I can't even. They both parties love war. Both parties love deporting people. Both, putting kids in cages. Hatshep, what's up? When Trump was asked about rolling back environmental regulations, he said it was good because those people are making lots of money now.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. And they all talked about, remember when Joe Biden said, like, "Oh, Wall Street likes my plan better because Wall Street says it'll create more jobs." And it's like, and it's fine to focus on, there's nothing wrong with mentioning that in a real Green New Deal, which of course, Biden doesn't support a Green New Deal, and of course Trump doesn't either. But in a real Green New Deal, yes, that does come with a lot of jobs. We need it. It's going to take jobs. It's going to take jobs to do everything we need to do. So yes, there is the economic component to it. And yes, that's a fantastic thing. But, the kind of leading bullet point should be, we're going to fix things so that we're not going to be not on this planet any frickin' time soon. Right. That should be the first thing. Hey, we have to do something, or we're going to reach the point of no return. We have to frickin' do something. And then you can bring up, oh, by the way, there's like a butt ton of jobs. This is going to be a good thing. And they're not going to be shitty temp jobs that just wreck the environment, wrecks your health, and then we just move on and wreck somewhere else. They're going to be permanent jobs. They're going to be permanent green jobs.
And the other thing, too, is, and this is the thing, when Trump goes, it's going to cost $100 trillion, like just one crazy Trump lie, and which is basically how you're going to pay for it. Biden cannot say, well, we'll pay for it the same way we pay for all these wars. He can't come at that because he helped us go from 2 wars to 7, and he'll keep the war machine going. So it's like he can't say, look, if we don't fix this, we're all going to die. So we have to fix this, and here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut our military budget in half. I'm going to put this. I'm going to create peace with Russia and China and get them on board, since we're all big superpowers, and India and Brazil, to get them on board with reversing climate change. And we're going to all work together to do that as not just America, but as the human race. And we're going to put all Americans to work doing that.
Yeah.
That's how you say that. But you can't say that when you're funded by corporations.
Did they
let me tell you something. If one nuclear weapon is detonated,
they talk about that.
So we can't. This is an unwinnable war. It's insane. I'm going to go for complete disarmament because I want my grandchildren to see their 50th birthdays. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to sit down with Russia. I'm going to sit down with China, and I'm going to broker peace with these people. And I'm going to get us together to work together as a planet to find a vaccine, to do everything together to save the planet. That's what I mean. But you can't do that when you work for these two corrupt parties. It's just maddening that, like,
oh yeah, I mean,
socialist medicine. Shut the. What is it? 1983. Shut up. You're only. I mean, I guess obviously they're like, well, only old people who don't know how to use mail-in ballots or whatever are still undecided or something. So let's have a debate from 1986 and, like.
Well, Trump was definitely coming at it from that angle, and I think part of the reason, and Biden was too, but that's just because that's all Biden knows, because he literally is one of those people, like mentally, and you know what I mean? Like, but Trump was really hitting that hard. I mean, he was bringing up 401ks, he was bringing up this, he was bringing up that. And I think the reason he was doing that is because he probably saw the polls where he's down with 65 plus, and he probably thought, you gotta be kidding me. I'm not winning that demo. The Republicans not winning that demo. Now, I mean, I think we got to take these polls with a big grain of salt. I think whatever Trump's got, you got to add 10 to it. But in some polls, you even add that 10 to it, he's still down. So
I know.
I came up with a super chat.
Here's some super chats. Annabelle Corley, shave your knuckles for justice. Lucy needs to get up on the podium and give them both the bum eye. Yes, we'll make that happen.
Yes.
Drew Wintermeyer, Drew, shave your knuckles for justice. Big win for no change. Oh, I know. Things staying the same, actually, was a huge win. Lullaby, baby. Come on, man. Good night. Go back to sleep. Nothing's going to change. You're safe with Grandpa tonight. Yep. Amit Campbell, what's up, Amit? Amit, sorry, one of those ways was right. One of them was wrong. You choose. Thank you so much for supporting the show.
You know the thing.
You know the thing
from the guy.
You know
Tony
the
DeMayo,
thing.
what's up, boom?
You know the thing.
Dark Shield, I, am scared of what is coming. Just me, I for one. Yeah, I don't know. It's
you know the thing.
It's nuts. Annabelle Corley, catch and release. That's how you talk about fish, not human beings. I know.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
that's like they're talking about that's normal.
I mean, there were so many moments during that debate where I was like, imagine being somebody from a different country and just watching this and being like,
or just imagine being, or just imagine
you guys
being
are psychopaths. You guys are insane.
Yeah.
You guys are nuts. Like, it's unbelievable.
Nuts. Two old rich white guys just talking about
who they want to bomb the most. Who, like how they're treating human beings. Oh, in that moment where Trump was like, look, you know, if we just let people in, I mean, everybody from the face of the planet, they're all going to want to come here. And nobody was like, you know what, Donnie, we don't need to worry about that anytime soon, possibly never again. The rest of the world does not want to come here. The rest of the world is looking at us with complete horror. And they're thinking, how insane is it and horrible is it that these folks play such a role on the world stage as they do, because they are a freaking disaster. They are a disaster. And this pandemic has shown what a disaster the United States is.
Well, I'm tweeting this right now because I want it out in the space.
That's what the folks call Twitter now. It's called the space. It's just like the new MySpace. It's like, well, it's just this space. You know, the space, which what the one. It's that one.
I'm just gonna put that tweet out there.
Right.
I'm gonna float a tweet out there.
Okay, hold on.
By the way, shout out to everybody. The last time I was on the Political Vigilante, that I had a brain fart when you guys brought up Richard Hale, and it made me revisit the Blank Generation album. So thank you for that shot in the arm, so to speak. I revisited the Blank Generation album. It had been a long time, and I enjoyed it very much. So thank you for that. Well, you're tweeting. Thought I'd mention that. I don't know if anyone in the chat is like, you're welcome. Maybe they are. I hope so. But
here's what I wrote. Here's what I felt like the debate was like. It's like hostages watching their two captors argue over how they're gonna fucking beat and torture and rape them and sell them. Like, that's what I felt like this was. Like, we're so screwed. These are our choices. And you're like hostages. Like, well, I don't know. This guy's at least not gonna set us on fire first. You know, like. This guy's going to give us some food a little bit before he sells us into slavery, so I guess I'll take that guy? I don't know, like...
It's so funny.
Oh.
He's got a good point.
Dear Lord, it was just so brutal.
Well, this is like the first time, I guess, in my life where I've never just been more, like, eager for it all to just be over.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, let's just, whichever enemy we're going to have, just let us know so we can plan accordingly. Like, let's just, like, you know, no matter what, it's almost like you got to rip this Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's not going to be an ally no matter what. It's going to be Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Let's just know what we're dealing with so we can plan accordingly. And it's not going to. Let's just get it over with. Let's just get it over with so we can stop hearing about it.
Yeah. I just don't want to listen, and I don't want to listen about it ever again. So, Sama Ali, shave your knuckles for justice. A Mares, what's up? Thank you for supporting the show. Empty corruption food fight at best. It had me ADD. Is there anything else I could be doing? Cleaning my toilet, maybe? I know. It's like, I mean, I think that's probably why 40 million people.
What's funny is I did want to clean my toilet right before the debate. I was like, I don't have time.
Well, I tweeted when I first, because I took a shower right before the debate started. I was just like, I feel like I really screwed up timing-wise because I'm taking a shower right before I watch something where after it's over, I'm going to feel like I need a fucking shower
again, right? That's funny.
Yeah, I kind of, I had to jump in the shower in the middle of it because I just was like, I couldn't.
Can't do it anymore.
I felt dirty. I just had to scrub myself from the filth of the American empire. 804 people watching.
Wow.
Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen.
About to get a shout out here, guys.
424.
About to get a shout out.
Come on, we got to get the likes up to like 800. There's 800 watching. There needs to be 800 likes. Everybody hit the like button right now. Hit it like the way Bitcoin has been going up. Come on, 13,000. DC, shave your knuckles for justice, DC. My friend in New York requested an absentee ballot, never received it, and tried checking its status online. New York Board of Elections shows status as received.
Jeez.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
But I mean that is another issue too. I mean it's going to be interesting to see what the results say, no matter what happens. And I think there's going to be a lot of shenanigans.
No law regarding cannabis. Cannabis isn't just.
I mean, look, somebody on the chat said that they live in a Latino neighborhood in California, and somebody set one of those ballot box things on fire.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to be nuts all over the place. It's just going to be nuts all over the place, and on both sides, it's going to be insane. My fear is that come the end of November 3rd, we're still not going to know, and it's going to drag on for weeks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, it's going to be a minute. I mean, I think it's safe to say it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen, but I think that's what is going to happen.
Yeah.
Annabelle Corley, what's up? Down under, boogeyman of socialist medicine will come and give you free health care. I know. Right. And that's the other thing. Like, if you had Bernie Sanders on stage or someone with his policies, you could say,
dude, that's what my
you could say those exact words. You could say, you gotta say socialized medicine. It's just free Medicare.
That's my super chat.
Medicare for all isn't government-run health care. The government just negotiates the price. That's why the healthcare companies and big pharmaceutical companies are so against it.
Supposed to initialize
that's
this
what happens.
Conversation.
You go to the hospital, you get a procedure done, they come back and say it's $1,500. The government comes in and goes, actually, no, it's only going to be $600. And they negotiate it down, and they have to pay the $600. That's why these companies don't want it. And why they've had free healthcare in all these other countries for decades. And people's cost of living is low. It's better way of life. Like, it's just, I'm so sick of hearing this. I've heard this fucking argument for 30 years. I want free healthcare. And I don't want two rich assholes arguing over which form of me not having it I'm going to get.
Yeah, it's such bullshit. I mean, and that was like, when they were particularly in healthcare and Donald Trump was going on that tirade, it was another one of those moments where you were just listening and you're like, I wish Biden was that guy you're describing right now. Oh my God, he's going to bring about socialized medicine. I freaking wish. He's going to end fracking. I wish.
I know.
All these things. I was like, I wish he was that guy. I wish so bad he was that. And then Joe Biden's like, I'm not that guy.
Bring up my super chat, Graham.
It's like they're arguing over who's the bigger
villain. Bring up my super chat while you're talking about it.
I know, it really was. It's like you have two awful villains deciding how they're going to fucking set the village on fire.
I will make sure not everyone gets healthcare. Well, I too have a plan to make sure not everyone gets healthcare.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, man. Like, God.
Go Graham.
Capitalism is socialism for the oligarchs, somebody wrote. You got that right.
Go Graham. Go Graham.
You got that completely right.
Super chat.
Let's get into a couple more super chats here.
His garden shape your justice.
It's so frustrating to watch this shit,
Well, it's really frustrating when you think about what we could have had. When you think of, especially when you look at like what happened in different parts of the world right now, like what happened in Bolivia recently, you really think about, gee, what if it was, I mean, tonight's debate, again, all those rebuttals that Trump was able to throw at Biden because of Biden's horrible history, he couldn't have thrown any of those at Bernie Sanders. The only rebuttal Trump had that he could have tried to throw at Bernie, and Bernie probably would have been able to deflect it, was the whole, like, they tried single payer in Vermont. And I guarantee Bernie's heard that for enough years, he would have been able to throw that back in his face. He'd be like, you know what, Donald, you're right. At one point in Vermont, we did try it, and because of a bunch of propaganda, they scared a bunch of rich people off of it. They were worried about the quote-unquote taxes because of that bullshit. Oh, your taxes will go up. Well, yeah, because you're paying the government for your health care instead of some bullshit insurance company. That's how it works. You're not paying that bullshit insurance company anymore. That's the freaking difference. And the propaganda was enough that it scared a bunch of people away. So you have that one, for instance, Donald Trump, that you can point to, that one time where it got stopped in its tracks in the United States. You know what I can point to, though? Every other industrialized country in the world where it works. So guess what? It's time for us to get with the times. He would have deflected that in a minute. He would have been just fine. That's the only rebuttal Donald Trump had that he could have actually used against Bernie Sanders. Because Bernie Sanders didn't write the crime bill. Bernie Sanders wasn't sitting beside Barack Obama when Barack Obama was being the reporter-in-chief. Bernie Sanders, I mean, the list goes
on down the line. On down the line.
And I'm not saying Bernie's perfect. He's not.
I can help
but
that.
Man, would we be in much better shape. Much better shape.
And like Trump would go, you voted for the Afghanistan war. And he'd go, yeah, I know I did. And I realized now it was a mistake. Mm-hmm. And this is why I would end these wars. I mean, it's just like on down the line.
Yeah, when I make a mistake in foreign policy, you've made more mistakes than I have in foreign policy. I've been in government, like 40 years? You've been in it 3. And when I make a mistake, I actually own up to it. I say I made a mistake. You double down. You talk about how proud you are.
Double down,
he would have eaten his lunch. Bernie would have clocked him. He would have wiped the floor with him. And they knew that.
Oh, here,
That's why they stopped him, and Bernie allowed them to stop him and didn't fight back. Which, I don't know which is the worst crime. Annabelle Rivera, thank you both for all you do, Shaper Duckers for Justice. Love Lucy, you got it.
Thank you.
And
she's running around here somewhere.
Is she? Let's get her out there.
She's somewhere.
Emblem Fate, Libya used to be beautiful. No one can tell me when bright is better until I, with my black skin, can visit Libya without fear of being sold and kidnapped. No, you have a very valid point. And Hillary laughed.
Yeah.
Hillary laughed.
Also, since they brought that up, can we mention, and I'm not trying to defend Biden by any means here, but Donald Trump keeps repeating that lie that Joe Biden said super predator. He didn't. Super predators was Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden said a bunch of other horrible shit.
Yeah, no, it was Hillary Clinton.
Racist stuff. So I'm not defending the guy. I'm just telling the truth. He didn't say super predators. That was Hillary Clinton. But he won't, and he knows that, but he won't say it. He's never. He'll kind of correct him. He'll be like, I didn't say that thing you just accused me of. But he won't be like, that was Hillary Clinton. That's it. He won't even diplomatically mention it. He won't. He could very, if I was Joe Biden, a diplomatic way to do that, be like, you know what? That wasn't me. I did not say that. Hillary Clinton said that, and it was wrong, and she regrets it and has evolved from it. Which, of course, isn't true. But, if I was Biden, that's what I would say. Right. He won't even do that. He won't. You don't speak ill of the Queen.
That's it. It's crazy. Nay's Garden, isn't it great the way the progressive platform has been erased from the conversation? Yeah, Nays, you got that absolutely correct. They just wiped it up. It's gone. Then now they're arguing over who's going to make sure fracking continues. It's crazy. Zap Strong, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Oligarchs might want Trump to win because it offers cover for Democrats to move further right during another 4 years of distraction. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird to see what the oligarch ruling class, maybe they're in disagreement, maybe they're having a disagreement over which one of these horrible people would be better for their nonsense? I don't know. It's hard to say.
I'd imagine they are, because I'm sure some of them are like, well, we'd all be better off if things went back to quote unquote normal, which would be a Joe Biden. But then I think some of them probably see it, like what the commenter said, like, well, Donald Trump will be, the Democrats can just become more and more horrible, going, hey, look at the orange guy, we're still not him, and he's the reason for every problem in the history of ever, so we're going to keep, being more and more horrible.
Yeah. Sharif Snug! Sharif, thanks for supporting the show. Shave your knuckles for justice. Graham, I got told I'm not serious about this election because I want to vote third party. Could you talk about splitting the vote? I'm tired of hearing that. Seriously, what does that mean? Well, it's so ridiculous. I've heard that so many times because I voted third party so many times. You're not serious about the election. First of all, tell your friends who say that they don't understand how a democracy works. In a thriving democracy, they would have 3, 4, 5 reasonable, real candidates to vote for. So there's 100 million people that don't vote. There's a reason they don't vote, because they watch debates like this one tonight and they're uninspired. They don't think nothing's going to change. 2 old rich white assholes from these 2 corrupt parties. Nothing. They just said they're not. So let's say you live in your.
It's true. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed the debate with me in Bong Hits. I am going to call it a night. How long did we go? 2 hours and a half minutes. 2 hours 29 minutes. Almost 2.5 hours. That is amazing. Hey, Doc, there you are. Hey, if you guys were talking and chatting and participating, I would have stayed, man. Nobody's talking to me at all. You guys are just sitting there. So I'm going to go, I would have smoked out and fucking, I would have had fun, man. I didn't even think anybody was even here. I was enjoying that conversation so much. And I was participating in it. I was talking to y'all, but nobody's talking back. Good, Doc. I'm glad, man. All right. It's too bad because, if you guys would use the chat, it would scroll. You guys would, Anyhow, I would promote Graham and Ron, but I think that's good enough. You guys catch him at Graham Elwood and Ron Placone, respectively, on YouTube. All right, guys? All right. Later, Megsy. I hope you guys enjoyed the debates as much as I did. All right. Bye, guys. Later.